have no idea. Do you know who these two are? If you think you know who this couple is, comment who they are below. But most won't know this ancient couple, nor will they be able to accept it once I reveal who they are. You see, you were taught that there was an actual debate whether or not the gods exist. In fact, you've been told that there's only a debate for the existence of one God. You were taught that only fools and savages believe in multiple gods, and you were taught that if those gods exist, they're in fact demons. This is not the case. Modern atheism and theism are both based off of post-biblical understandings of the gods in the Bible through the lens of monotheism. And they both presuppose that the Bible is univocal, or that it speaks from one voice, in that it is authoritative when it talks about gods and spirits. But the Bible is not univocal. It does not come from one voice, and it has many authors who had no idea that one day someone was going to take a whole library of a culture and put it into one book. Many writings in the Bible do not presuppose monotheism. The Bible actually shows evidence of many gods, some that have vanished, some that have become angels, and some that have become demons. It demonstrates how this culture in the world at large went from, pantheism, polytheism, to henotheism, to monotheism, and for some of you, atheists. Lastly, the Bible isn't authoritative in the topic of God. Many of the gods existed before any of the writings in the Bible. Some of the stories in that library we call the Bible were borrowed from other gods and mythologies. So the problem today is atheists and monotheists are both debating on many false premises today. The term supernatural alone presupposes Christian authority. It was a word made up by the church to distinguish between the natural and God. That was more than enough time to write in the comments below. This is one of the most important goddesses in history, Asherah. If you don't want to wait to find out who this is, go to the link at the top of the page. There's a free audiobook called World War Gods. It breaks all this down way better than I could do in these short videos. Because you have no idea. I'm going to tell you who these two are together as an ancient couple and reveal their true mythology. But then I'll show you how you can find them throughout history, like their physical impact on Earth. In the beginning, El, the Most High, stood on the divine mountain with his wives, one of which is the highest goddess in Canaan, Asherah, creating 70 children together to govern the earth, the sea, etc. Among them was Baal, Stormbringer, Yam, the ruler of the seas, Mot, lord of death. El also formed humankind, charging them to nurture Eden. But humans chose ambition over harmony, building civilization and draining the land. Heartbroken, El leaves. He left the whole world to his children. Among them was a god you all know. His name was Yahweh, a very ambitious son who was originally given Jacob, later known as Israel, by his father, El. He would eventually claim El's throne, El's consort, Asherah, thus begun Yahweh's reign, vowing to cleanse the corruption of all the gods, reshaping the world in a judgment of fire into the world you know today. This is the story of El. Some elements from the Canaan mythology, some elements from the biblical mythology, but they both talked about El. El and Yahweh are both biblical gods. This guy up here is El, the original husband of Asherah, god of the Hebrews. Remember, if you want this information just quick, you can always go to the link at the top of my page as the free audiobook, World War God. I'm going to say it again. You have no idea. Comment below if you already knew who these two were. Okay, you ready? El is the Most High in both Canaanite lore and the Hebrew lore. And Asherah is his consort. Yes, God has or had a wife. Why has no one taught you this? Why aren't they teaching you this in church? It's because these beings are more real than they would like you to believe. They are real in ways that many couldn't imagine, and I will prove it to you. Now, if I prove it to you, if I give you some deep information, you have to agree to share this video. If not, just forget about it. Comment below you understand at the end of this explanation if you really. So what is a spirit? A spirit is an essence of a thing. And the essence is a collection of attributes that define a thing. These essences aren't just abstract concepts. They are fundamental forces that shape material reality. So in this sense, a spirit is an immaterial essence that has a real influence on the physical world. Immaterial things like consciousness, mathematics affect the material world in obvious ways. Dreams are intangible, yet they influence thoughts, decisions, and actions, leading to real-world consequences. Mathematics is abstract, yet it governs physical structures and makes technological progress possible. Since these unseen forces shape reality, it follows that immaterial essences or immaterial things, like spirits, can do the same thing. It's about to get deep. For example, what are these two? Like, write them in the comments. These skulls are the skulls of what? And then I want you to comment, what is this? Okay, you ready? Don't cheat. Many of you said this is a coyote. Many of you said this is the skulls of dogs or wolves. Some of y'all are erasing your comments now because you realize it's not the case. This is the skull of a wolf. This is the skull of a thylacine, the cousin of a kangaroo that's not related to dogs at all. That other picture was a thylacine, not a coyote. You have to understand something called convergent evolution. Nature repeatedly produces similar life forms, and this suggests that certain essences pre-exist as potentialities within nature. Wolves, thylacines, hyenas evolve separately. They're not related any way meaningfully genetically, but they have wolf-like traits. This happens because ecological niches, matrices, create the conditions for certain forms to emerge. If Earth-like conditions exist elsewhere, wolf-like creatures would likely evolve there as well. This suggests that the spirit of the wolf or the wolf essences exists beyond genetics. It's a pattern embedded in reality, waiting for the right conditions to manifest. Across time and geography, cultures have identified immaterial essences and natural phenomena. The spirit of agriculture, the spirit of the thunderstorm. These aren't just metaphors, they're describing reality. What is a king? The king is somebody on the top of the hierarchy of a societal power structure. Gods are similar. They're higher order spirits. Immaterial force is so significant that they transcend individual manifestation. And so, in other words, spirits, once they hit a certain level of influence that's vast enough, shaping entire ecosystems, civilizations, or human consciousness, we recategorize them as gods. Again, if you want to go even deeper into this, way deeper, you need to go read that book, World War Gods. It is in the link at the top of the page, and the audiobook is free. I'm telling y'all, man. Oh, man. Listen, y'all are wondering what these are, where you can find them, things like that. The statue behind me is concept art for a statue of El and Asherah. Also have concept art of Yahweh and Asherah. It's right here. Yes, again, the God of the Bible did have a wife, Asherah. You see, not only are the gods real, but there's actually a way to track them through history. Remember, I said I would tell y'all about this? It's called abstract history. So let me read y'all exactly what it is. Abstract history is a framework for analyzing history that treats spirits, gods, characters, civilizations, and other abstract entities as real historical figures with causal agency. Unlike conventional history, which often relegates mythologies and abstract forces to metaphor, abstract history tracks these entities across time by analyzing their historical footprint, their influence on civilizations, and the reciprocal relationship between them and human society. Okay, so let's address the elephant in the room. Many of y'all are wondering, why does Yahweh have horns? First of all, in the Bible, it says that he has horns, okay? And multiple translations, but especially the updated translation. The RSV, the NAB, the ASV. Numbers 24:8. God who brought them out of Egypt has horns like those of the wild ox. I think you get the point. But you could also look outside the Bible, because remember, the Bible's not an authority, right? There's depictions of Yahweh outside the Bible. You know, before King Hosea forbids such things. I'm going to show you the image. This is Yahweh and his Asherah, and he has also a headdress of horns, which was common for gods at that time because it meant strength. If you wish to read the official abstract history book, read World War Gods. It's in the link at the top of the page. The audiobook is free. It's the first biography of Yahweh. Let's address the other elephant in the room. Yahweh has a father, I said. Don't believe me? I have proof that Yahweh has a father. He would claim oneness with his father, by the way, and I'm not denying it. Similar to how Yahshua or Jesus of Nazareth claims oneness with the Father. In one of the oldest manuscripts that we have, the Dead Sea Scrolls, Yahweh or Adonai is regarded as El's son. You can read it in Deuteronomy 32:8, Deuteronomy 32:9. Either use the oldest manuscript or like the RSV, the NRSV. But let me sum up the story. Pretty much, El divides the gods, his children, by the nations of man, and he gives them all a portion. To Yahweh, he gives his portion, which is Jacob or Israel. For some, this is disturbing, but I don't think it should. Remember, for more information, read World Gods. It's a link at the top of the page. The audiobook is free. You know how to track down these gods? How you as a mere mortal can actually find these gods throughout history? and evidence for them. There is something called abstract history, which I already talked about, but let me go over the core principles of it. First, abstract beings are causal agents. I'm reading from this explanation I wrote a while ago. Abstract entities like gods, spirits, or civilizations are not just symbols or ideas, but historical actors whose influence can be traced through concrete historical changes. These beings cause specific historical events when evidence supports such a connection. History is a dynamic interaction between the abstract and the material. Civilizations, movements, and cultures are also abstract beings, interacting with spirits and gods. Historical change results from the interplay between human societies and abstract forces that guide, shape, and respond to them. Causality is based on evidence, not mythology. So abstract history does not take mythology at face value, but instead examines when and how a spirit's adoption or influence leads to tangible historical changes. Example, Yahweh is historically credited for the Israelites' shift to hilltop settlements, as his worship is correlated with that movement. In other words, they didn't do that until they started to worship Yahweh. But he is not credited for the Babylonian exile, as many do in biblical writings, because there's no evidence to support that. Abstract entities exist on different levels of influence. So you can get that book and you can read it now. World War Gods, the Biography of Yahweh is in a link at the top of the page. So how did we write the biography of Yahweh? So let's use Yahweh as a case study for how abstract history works. I'm reading off my notes on the side, so please excuse me. So one, the traditional history approach. Yahweh evolved from a minor deity in the Canaanite pantheon to a monotheistic God of Israel and later influenced Christianity and Islam. That is a depiction of Yahweh, by the way. So what's the abstract history approach? Yahweh is treated as an active causal force in history. His adoption led to a shift in Israelite settlements, patterns, and monotheistic reforms. He competed with and overpowered other deities, Baal, Asherah, causing changes in religious structures. His presence shaped laws, codes, and political ideologies that define Jewish civilization. So how do abstract historians actually work? Well, first you got to identify the abstract entity. What qualities define it? And what civilizations, movements, or forces interact with it? You got to know those things. Number two, you got to trace its historical footprint. When was it adopted or abandoned? What changes did its presence cause in governance, law, or culture? Did civilizations change their structure, laws, or locations because of it? Then you got to analyze causal relationships. Does historical evidence link the abstract entity to specific actions or shifts? If a civilization adopts a spirit, what tangible effects follow? Then you have to compare it with other entities. How do different abstract forces compete, merge, or influence each other? Zeus versus Yahweh, for example. And how Christianity took over the Hellenistic beliefs. And finally, why does it matter? Well, it expands historical analysis, right? By recognizing the real influence of ideas, beliefs, and divine forces in shaping human action. That's a big deal. It offers a new way to study civilization, and it bridges the gap between mythology and history. But if we ever looked and traced the history of the tyrant, it will probably go back to civilization itself. And many believe that in order to destroy a tyrant, then you got to do what? You got to destroy the person who's tyrannical. But there's a spirit of the tyrant. And so destroying the person doesn't destroy the spirit of the tyrant. Excuse me, I'm chewing gum. My apologies. Point being, abstract history treats the spirit of the tyrant as real, making people realize, oh, we have to take out this spirit, not just the person or human. Read World War Gods if you're interested in this. The free audiobook is in a link at the top of the page. I love you all. Peace.